it is always, I've found that it has always been painful because you're always having to rediscover yourself or redefine yourself in a certain area because just when you think you've gotten to a point, you always find yourself having to lose in order to gain. And I found that that has always been painful because to discover that, you always have to find that place and it's always new to you. It always becomes new and painful because for some strange reason, the enemy has always been very clever in hiding that place from you. To me, he hides it. He's very good at hiding that part of you from you. He blind. That has always been a blind spot to me. For me.
He just revealed or helped me to realize something. Now, it's not the main thing, but it's just something that I can expound on as far as wisdom. Being honest with myself. For some time, I attempted to live a life that did not suit me. As I was growing up, I was labeled as the choir boy or Steve Urkel. But once I had an opportunity, I wanted to live like the hood. I wanted to do what the hood did. Little girls I would run behind when I was younger, they said, well, you're going to make a good husband. You're going to be a good father. But as soon as I got the opportunity, I wanted to live like the player. It wasn't fitting of me. The hood saw me and said, now he know better than that. That don't even, if anything, I got robbed. But through those experiences, and they were painful experiences, just as you mentioned, Pat. Through those experiences, I came to get enough wisdom of myself to know that, look, I am who I am. You know, if my speech does not make it well in the hood, I can't do nothing about it.
That's right.
This is how I am made. This is how I'm created. It makes no sense for me to dumb myself down to make you feel comfortable.
That's right. That's right.
Or, rather than dumb myself down, try to speak all eloquent to fit in.
That's it.
I can only be me.
That's just who I am.
That's right.
This is who I am.
So that's my wisdom.
And when I find that space, it works for me.
Right.
When I'm comfortable in my skin, it works for me. Whatever level that puts me on, it works for me. I'm successful at it.
Right. Because it's very uncomfortable living to please the world.
That's right.
That's an uncomfortable feeling.
That's right. That place God has carved out for me, I really find that my gift works for me. Whatever gift God has placed in me, it works for me. My gift makes room for me. And what God has for me, I find out it is for me. Ain't nobody fit where God has carved out for me. And when I get there, that's my wealthy place.
Yes, sir.
That's my wealthy place.
I like that. Wealthy place.
That's it. And you know what I found out?
I like that.
I find myself being the envy of my world.
Yeah.
When I get there.
Yeah. And that's why I like celebrate every victory. Because you don't realize other folks see what God put in you. And sometimes you'll miss it.
That's right.
Because you allow doubt to creep in your head. The enemy messing with your mind and you telling you that, but that's not going to work. And then somebody else come along and say, man, look, you in the best business in the world. I'm cutting grass on the side. I've heard people come up to me and say, man, you're in the best business. Midway in my thought process, I'm wondering, how am I going to make it? You see, man, you're in the best business in the world. They can see what God put in you.
That's right. And it works for you. It'll work for you.
It's sort of like Solomon, one of the wealthiest, wisest men ever. And he walked past this man's lot and he said he was a wicked and slothful servant because his lot had grown up with wheat and tares and he had done nothing with it. And Solomon, who had everything, saw the potential in what this man had. And sometimes we want what they got and they see something that we take for granted and say, if I had what you had, I'll show you what to do with what you had.
But that's the part the enemy is so good at blinding us to. Is keeping us from seeing the wisdom that's in what God has placed in us. And if we can ever discover it, that's our wealthy place. If
I
we-
really like that. I like that wealthy place because folks hear that word wealth and they only concerned with the financial aspect of it. But expound on, I'm gonna do like Tony said.
Well,
Could you expound on that for me, Pastor?
Well, it really was in the message today. The real wisdom is said, out of all thy getting,
You know what I'm saying?
get understanding. And that is that gift that God has placed within you. If you can embrace that the wisdom of that, if you can release and willing to lose everything to embrace that,
So
even though you lose everything, you gain everything. You have everything to gain.
so embrace my mission,
Yes.
which is Bible study for
Which was and is
Yeah.
Bible study.
just a Bible study break at this point.
Well, if you remember last week's Bible study, that was simply that. Remember?
It's
It's that anointing.
yeah.
It is what God's assignment for you. That is the anointing. We think anointing is something that falls on us. It is something that we run up underneath. But it's not really that. The anointing is simply what God's assignment for you. And if you walk in that assignment, that is walking in your anointing. Remember, even the prophets of old, it was that the anointing was that assignment that God had for their life. Whatever God had anointed for them or had assigned for them, or whatever assignment God had appointed for them to do, that was their anointing. And as long as they walked in that assignment, they couldn't get defeated.
So my prayer is, cause I heard it mentioned like all throughout this, find your wealthy in your wealthy place. You talked about how your wisdom part was, sometimes you have to lose to gain to find out who God yourself or you think. So it's finding yourself, finding your position, finding your anointing. Lord, what is it that you called me for? And then when I find it, if I'm gonna be wealthy, if I'm gonna be prosperous, I gotta embrace that position that you called me for. But you'll never do it without that foundation.
It's not really seeking wealth. It's just simply, Lord, what is my purpose? Because too many of us, that's what we go out. We're seeking wealth. We're seeking possession.
Mhm.
Lord, I just simply want to do what you want, or what you assigned me to do, what you called me to do, fulfill my purpose. And if I can find that, I don't have to seek any of those other things. All I got to do is seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all those other things will be added unto me. My blessing will overtake me.
And it's sort of like with Solomon, which is what we headed with Bible study, so it's kind of a clue into it. Solomon didn't ask for possessions. Solomon wanted to fulfill his position.
The whole duty of man is what?
Serve God.
That's the whole duty of man.
I guess we're looking too hard for something that's too easy to find. We're coming up with so much extra,
Principal thing.
and it's not as extra as we make it seem. Just accept life for what God called it to be, right? And then at that point, so you've been justified, you start living sanctified, and then we start seeing all of these things come to pass in our lives, which is the glorification part, right?
Commit thy ways unto the Lord.
And it shall bring it to pass. So with Job, I know we was talking about Job earlier, you was talking about Job earlier too. At the end it said Job was blessed double for what he had been through, which I guess would be considered the glorification part, right?
Yeah.
But he was blessed double for all that he had been through. Yeah. And I guess we gotta start looking at sanctification the right way. Sanctification isn't that shouting, speaking in tongues, running around, all that. You're gonna get tried by the fire, and it was what happened with Job.
Well, if you go back to the beginning, which the principal thing, Genesis, the beginning, all of that, the truth, find